Next up, we're going to crack open the topic of the U.S. food supply chain, specifically looking at how the recent surge in egg prices due to avian flu has exposed some major weaknesses in our system. Who would have thought that a bird virus could send egg prices soaring by over 15% in just 1 month? It's a crazy world we live in, folks. The question on everyone's mind is what can be done to prevent such drastic price hikes in the future?
Right? So, I'm no expert, but it seems like the government should, help out farmers when they're dealing with diseases like avian flu. Isn't that what they do in other countries? Provide subsidies or emergency funding to keep prices stable. How does that work exactly?
Great question. Well, let's take a look at some examples from around the world. In the EU, for instance, farmers can receive compensation for losses due to diseases like avian flu. It's not a perfect system, but it helps mitigate the impact on consumer prices. Now, in the US, we have some support programs in place, but they're often criticized for being inadequate or slow to respond.
That makes sense, I guess. But, wouldn't giving farmers subsidies just, create more problems down the line? Like artificial price controls or something? I've heard that can lead to all sorts of unintended consequences like shortages or overproduction.
Excellent point. You're thinking like an economist. Yes, subsidies can have unintended consequences, but in this case, the goal would be to provide temporary support during times of crisis, not to create a permanent system of price controls. Think of it like a safety net for farmers, allowing them to stay afloat while they deal with the aftermath of a disease outbreak.
Okay. I see what you mean. So, it's like having an emergency fund for farmers. But right? How would that work in practice? Would the government just, hand out money to farmers whenever there's an outbreak?
Well, not exactly. The idea would be to have a more structured system in place where farmers can apply for support based on their specific needs and circumstances. It could be a combination of subsidies, low-interest loans, or even insurance programs tailored to mitigate the risks associated with diseases like avian flu.
That sounds interesting. I'm not sure I fully understand how it would work, but I can see why it might be necessary. What about other countries? How do they deal with similar issues?
Great question. Let's take a look at, say, Australia. They have a very robust system of support for farmers, including subsidies and emergency funding. And you know what? Their food prices are generally more stable than ours. Now, I'm not saying we should copy their system exactly, but it's definitely worth studying and learning from.
Wow. I had no idea. Australia, huh? Maybe we should, send a team of experts to study their system and see what we can learn from it. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
Laughs. Well, I think that's a great idea. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have a more robust support system in place for our farmers, and we won't have to worry about egg prices skyrocketing every time there's an outbreak of avian flu. Wouldn't that be something?
Excitedly, yeah, that would be amazing. Can you imagine having stable food prices, no matter what's going on with diseases or weather or whatever? It's like a utopia for consumers.
Laughs. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. But seriously, it's an important topic and one that deserves more attention and discussion. We'll have to keep exploring this issue and see where it takes us.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn more about it. What's next? Are we going to talk to some farmers or experts in the field?
Yes. We have a great guest lined up for our next segment. He's a farmer from Iowa who's been dealing with the aftermath of avian flu firsthand. It's going to be a fascinating conversation, so stay tuned.